Alright, now let us do the difference between monopoly, monopolistic competition and oligopoly. Perfect competition we have done in detail. So now monopoly, monopolistic competition and oligopoly. Of course, for this year's the syllabus is just little bit of introduction of these three types of markets. So we have done it point wise so that you are able to learn as well as understand them easily. First point is number of sellers. Under perfect competition we had said that there are large number of sellers, but under monopoly there is one single seller only. He has no other person or firm to compete with him. Under monopolistic competition, large number of sellers. If there is one seller here, there may be 20, there may be 40, there may be 60 sellers or even more under monopolistic competition. Oligopoly, here there are few but very big sellers. So there is some kind of a agreement easily that is made gradually over a period of time, and they can all decide regarding their share of the market with respect to price and quantity that they will supply in different regions. Next one is nature of the product. No close substitutes are available for the product under monopoly form of market. So it is a single product and there is no substitute for it. Then monopolistic competition, closely related but different products. They are pretty close to each other like Pepsi and Coke. So the product does have a substitute and the substitute is pretty close to the existing product. Under oligopoly, products are homogeneous under pure oligopoly and differentiated under differentiated oligopoly. So, and of course, you have some kind of differentiation with the product and there are little differences. Number of items reduced by such firms is also limited. Entry and exit of firms. Under this feature, under monopoly, we find that entry of new firms and exit of old firms is restricted. There is one single seller, hence he will not allow the entry of a new firm because that will invite competition and he may be forced to reduce the price of his product. As a result, there is all steps taken by the monopolist so that he does not allow entry of new firms. Normally, the examples of monopoly is government monopolies like we have in our country with respect to railways. So, railway has been a monopoly in our country and of course, maybe in near future they may allow competition, but so far it is a monopoly. Monopolistic competition, freedom of entry and exit. So here there is new firms are allowed to enter and existing firms also, in case they want to leave the market and they are facing losses, they can leave the market. For oligopoly, there is restriction of entry and of new firms. So since they have made a cartel means a group of producers trying to understand what will be the price fixed and the output supplied in the market. So here, therefore, new firms have difficulty in entering the industry. Fourth feature is demand curve. Under monopoly, the demand curve is downward sloping and it is a very steep demand curve. The steep demand curve is shown here by this diagram, and this is done primarily in order to have full control on the price of the product. The monopolist would like to charge higher price in order to make supernormal profits. Therefore, even for supplying just this much of a quantity, he is charging as much as OP price per unit. So, here the demand curve is less elastic. On the other hand, in case of monopolistic competition, you have a downward sloping demand curve but more elastic. This is shown by this diagram here. We have a demand curve which is flatter, and at this price OP he is supplying much more than what the monopolist was doing. Under oligopoly, it is indeterminate demand curve, because there are few firms, they will decide on their own what quantity they would like to supply, and depending upon what demand it is, which keeps on varying from market to market, place to place. Therefore, the demand curve is indeterminate, and I have not shown it also because the demand curve may be downward at one point, more flat at another point. The price of the product is the next feature. Under monopoly, firm is a price maker, so price discrimination is possible. Since the firm is the sole supplier, for example, if there is one particular doctor alone in the particular colony, he can charge a higher price from a richer patient and a lower price from a poor patient. So he decides what price to charge, and this discrimination is called as price discrimination. For monopolistic, firm has partial control over price due to product differentiation. Each firm is producing a slightly different product. To that extent, they can differentiate the price of the product. We had taken the example of Coke and Pepsi. Of course, they can form a cartel and they can decide whether they are going to charge the same price or they may charge a slightly different price from each other. Under oligopoly, price rigidity due to fear of price war. So they restrict to the same price as decided, because otherwise if they reduce the price, then the other firm, the other producer may also reduce, and the other producer is also capturing a higher share of the market. The next feature is selling costs. Selling costs are advertisement costs. Under monopoly, only informative selling costs are incurred. That means just stating that yes, this is the price of the product. They don't have to really capture the market on the basis of the price. So it is not a very significant factor. Just to make the people aware that this is the price that they are charging. That is why an informative selling costs have to be incurred. High selling costs are there in monopolistic competition because there is cutthroat competition here, and each firm would like to capture a higher share of the market. Hence, each one would have different or higher and higher advertisement costs or selling costs. Whereas in case of oligopoly also, huge selling costs are incurred because each producer would like to capture a higher share of the market. Then level of knowledge. Under monopoly, there is imperfect knowledge because producer does not know what should be the actual cost and how much he should pay for it. But since it is being provided and that is the only product in the market, he cannot find the actual cost and he cannot bargain at all. If he wants to buy the product, he has to shell out the price for that product as demanded by the seller or producer. Whereas under imperfect competition, there is imperfect knowledge also here as well, because each producer is trying to take care of his own profit margin, and depending upon his placement in the market, the profit margin is enjoyed by the producer. Under oligopoly, imperfect knowledge again, one producer does not know how much is the other producer making as profit. Therefore, there is imperfect knowledge, frankly speaking, in all these three forms of market. So, we have to do the difference between monopoly, monopolistic competition. I have also explained the diagram. In case of monopoly, it's the demand curve. Just look at the demand curve or the price. It is very, very steep, trying to give the product at the highest possible price, whereas under imperfect competition, under monopolistic competition, here the producer is supplying more and the demand curve and is clearly more elastic, and this shows that at the price OP he will be supplying much more. So, do the difference between the three curves. Thank you. Please subscribe to my channel. We will be doing more and more questions now. God bless you all.